Inside the school library, a girl was browsing through the shelves when a boy walked in. Their unexpected meeting caught them both off guard, sparking the start of something that would soon shift their everyday lives. In the quiet room, the boy steps closer and meets the girl's steady gaze. Their meeting carries the feeling that something significant is about to begin. The story unfolds at one of the top-ranked high schools in the area, famous for its prestige. Yet there's something more hidden beneath its reputation. Hajime, a 15-year-old boy, enrolled in the school because it was the model for a hit manga, where the spotlight was on the beloved heroine, Aoi Akasaka. Hajime shows up hours before the entrance ceremony, enjoying the empty school and feeling proud of his early arrival. As he explores the halls, Hajime snaps photos with excitement, seeing every corner of the school as sacred ground from his dreams. Despite his excitement, Hajime knows the real highlight he's been waiting for is still out there. He finally reaches the spot he's been waiting for, the resource room, the very place where Aoi, the heroine he admires, once made her base in the story. After rushing through the halls, Hajime finally makes it to the resource room, stepping in triumphantly, thrilled to stand in the place that means so much to him. As he steps inside, Hajime is stunned to find a girl already sitting there, clutching a notebook with an air of quiet mystery. Shocked, Hajime recognizes the girl before him and, in disbelief, calls out her name as if she were the heroine he had always admired. The girl looks up in surprise, as if she never expected to be recognized or called by that name. Caught off guard, Hajime nervously tries to explain himself, while the girl calmly asks what exactly he was doing in that room. Calmly, the girl explains that she got permission to use the room before the ceremony, taking the chance to study the school's details. Hajime is stunned to realize that the girl, who looks just like his favorite heroine, is actually a new student just like him. Confused, the girl asks who Aoi-tan is, and Hajime awkwardly admits that she's just a character from a manga. Excited, Hajime explains that the manga is called Love Mav, a masterpiece in his eyes, filled with touching moments and unforgettable characters. With a sharp gaze, the girl stares him down and bluntly asks what else he has to say, leaving Hajime frozen in place. Seeing the girl's stern eyes, Hajime feels a familiar sting. It's the same look of disdain he's faced before, the kind that comes with being judged as just another otaku. Panicking, Hajime bows deeply and blurts out an apology, terrified that he's already ruined everything. Hajime freaks out, cursing himself for letting his otaku side slip out on the very first day of high school. Worse yet, it all happened because she looked so much like Aoi that he couldn't hold back. Hajime reassures himself, thinking the school is so big that there's a good chance he won't run into that girl again for the next 3 years. To his shock, Hajime finds out the girl is seated right next to him in class, making it impossible to avoid her. Hajime panics, convinced that sitting next to her will expose his otaku side, and that the nightmare he lived through in middle school will repeat all over again. Hajime tries to reassure himself, clinging to the slim hope that maybe she's already forgotten about what happened. The girl locks eyes with him and says she's found him, leaving Hajime stunned and speechless. Moments later, the girl stands up and quietly leaves the classroom, leaving Hajime uneasy and puzzled by her sudden exit. Hajime's mind spirals, convinced the girl plans to toy with him just because he's a gross otaku, and he even panics over the idea of having to pay for peace. The classmates are stunned when Kirikawa, who usually only answers with a simple yes or no, suddenly says something out of the ordinary. The classroom buzzes with excitement, as many students admit it's their first time hearing Kirikawa's voice, while others celebrate being in the same class as her. Hajime, baffled, watches their reactions in disbelief. Confused by all the fuss, Hajime wonders if Kirikawa is really that amazing of a person for everyone to react this way. An angry classmate yells at Hajime, demanding he address her properly as Kirikawa-sama, leaving him cornered and overwhelmed. Yayoi Kirikawa is revealed to be wealthy, gifted, and admired, so much that students enroll just to be near her. Her classmates gather around with smiles, showing just how popular she is. His classmates are outraged, calling it outrageous for an ordinary nobody like Hajime to sit next to her. Embarrassed, Hajime apologizes for sitting there, while other classmates whisper that they wish they could have taken that seat instead. Hajime realizes he's accidentally gotten himself involved with a very important person at school. As he walks through the halls, Hajime grows frustrated hearing everyone worship Kirikawa, wondering if they're basically a cult. Suddenly, someone grabs Hajime's arm roughly, startling him, while Kirikawa watches with a serious, tense expression. A voice calls out, "Kirikawa-sama," echoing the overwhelming reverence everyone seems to have for her. Inside the room, Hajime comes face to face with Kirikawa again. She looks at him calmly and greets him with a composed, formal tone. Nervously, Hajime greets her, feeling the pressure of standing before the granddaughter of a powerful family and fearing what kind of threats she might be capable of. Flustered and sweating, Hajime reacts awkwardly, while Kirikawa calmly watches him with just a subtle gesture. Hajime notices, puzzled, that Kirikawa isn't doing anything intimidating. She just seems hesitant, as if about to say something important. Suddenly, Kirikawa bursts out with excitement, begging Hajime to show her the manga Love Mav, leaving him utterly shocked. Blushing and insistent, Kirikawa admits she got curious after hearing him talk and eagerly begs to see the manga. Hajime realizes, stunned, that Kirikawa's eyes weren't filled with disdain at all. They were completely locked in with genuine interest. Both of them blush and fumble, unsure how to keep the conversation going after her sudden request. Hajime awkwardly confesses he doesn't have the manga with him, and Kirikawa reacts strongly, almost accusing him of lying about being such a fan. Blushing, Kirikawa tries to justify herself by saying it's against school rules to bring manga, while Hajime thinks her view of manga fans is completely biased. Still flustered, Kirikawa admits he's right about the rules and shyly apologizes, clearly embarrassed. Hajime surprises her by asking straight out if she actually likes manga, leaving Kirikawa flustered and nervous at the question. With honesty, Kirikawa admits she's never read a single manga in her life, an unexpected confession coming from someone like her. Kirikawa opens up, admitting she's always been pressured by her parents and classmates to excel academically and stick to high-class hobbies, forcing her to constantly hold back and push herself. Kirikawa confesses she wants to do what she likes too, and that includes reading the manga. Kirikawa smiles softly, thanks him for listening to her story, and accepts that since he doesn't have the manga now, there's nothing they can do for the time being. Before leaving, Kirikawa asks him to keep their conversation a secret, and Hajime agrees. As he leaves the room, Hajime agrees to her request, recalling Kirikawa's words about finally wanting to do what she truly likes. Hajime realizes that, deep down, Kirikawa just wants to enjoy manga in secret, without anyone else knowing. Hajime mentions he has Love Mav on a manga app and offers to lend it to her while they're at school. Blushing and surprised, Kirikawa quickly agrees to Hajime's offer, assuring him she has absolutely no problem with it. Curious and flustered, Kirikawa asks about the manga app, showing how little she knows, while Hajime notes that she still has a lot to learn. Hajime downloads the app on her phone and walks her through the steps, showing her exactly how to access the manga. Holding her phone, Kirikawa stares at the screen blushing, unable to hide her excitement at this new experience. Seeing the manga on her screen for the first time, Kirikawa's eyes light up with pure excitement and wonder. Blushing, Kirikawa asks if it's weird for her to get excited over manga, but Hajime reassures her that it's not weird at all. Hajime feels happy that Kirikawa enjoys the manga like he does, seeing it as a shared bond. Blushing and surprised, Kirikawa quietly repeats the word friends, moved by Hajime including her that way. Hajime promises to keep everything a secret and says goodbye, as Kirikawa quietly watches him leave. Walking down the hallway, Hajime admits to himself that maybe he came on a little too strong. He pauses by the window, gazing outside, realizing he doesn't want to become a burden to a girl who's trying so hard. He notices the spot, recalling how in Love Mav, Aoi-tan stopped the protagonist there. Still, he tells himself things like that don't happen in real life. Suddenly, she grabs a shirt and shouts in panic, making it clear that he got it all wrong. She admits she's always been alone, but talking with him so casually and learning so much has truly made her happy. She says she's really glad she enrolled in this high school, while he, shocked, thinks to himself that this can't just be a coincidence. She softly says so, and he realizes those are the exact same words that pierced his heart in the manga, now happening in real life. Blushing and with determined eyes, she shouts that she wants to be friends with him, leaving him completely stunned by the sudden outburst. Blushing and with determined eyes, she shouts that she wants to be friends with him, leaving him completely stunned by the sudden outburst. And with that, he admits he's now friends with Kirikawa, an unexpected bond. He tells her he's looking forward to spending time with her. Kirikawa rushes up to Takahashi, urgently asking if he has a moment right now. In class, everyone is stunned when Kirikawa calls out to Takahashi, assuming she'll scold him for not realizing the honor of sitting beside her. Takahashi, confused, convinces himself that must be the case. Outside the school, Kirikawa calls out to Takahashi and hesitantly begins asking if there's any chance of something meaningful. Kirikawa is shocked to learn their school is the model for love math. Takahashi, excited, confirms it and feels thrilled to finally talk about otaku stuff openly. Kirikawa, trying to sound casual, remarks on how impressive the manga company's recent efforts are, leaving Takahashi confused by her oddly formal tone. She explains that originally you had to pay to read the second chapter of Love Math, but now, thanks to ad partnerships, companies can provide it to readers for free. Kirikawa seriously reflects on how quickly the world can change if you're not paying attention, but Takahashi thinks her way of speaking sounds like an old person's talk. With sparkling eyes full of excitement, Kirikawa eagerly asks Takahashi when Aoi-tan shows up in the story. Takahashi excitedly explains that Aoi-tan is the nickname of the heroine Aoi Akasaka, the main character of the manga Love Math. As Kirikawa shyly smiles holding her phone, Takahashi assumes she probably thinks Aoi-tan is some kind of cute mascot or creature. Takahashi, a bit flustered, points out that the heroine from Love Math kind of resembles Kirikawa. She's caught off guard by the comment and goes quiet, taking in his words. Flustered and blushing, Kirikawa suddenly bursts out, yelling that it's complete nonsense, leaving Takahashi stunned by her outburst. Embarrassed, Kirikawa insists she's not that cute, claiming Akasaka is way more charming, and even warns she'll get mad if Takahashi keeps making those kinds of jokes. Awkwardly, Takahashi mentions that Aoi-tan will show up soon, but admits he's really glad Kirikawa is getting into Love Math. Kirikawa agrees enthusiastically with a bright smile, as Takahashi reflects that otakus are happiest when they find friends. Takahashi looks ahead, realizing that spot holds a special significance. They realize it's the exact same spot from Volume 5 of Love Math, where Aoi-tan discovered a plum tree among the cherry blossoms. Takahashi wants to bring it up, but holds back, not wanting to spoil the story for her. He hopes that maybe next year they can share and talk about it together. She excitedly points out the trees, noticing that among the cherry blossoms, there are plum trees mixed in. She smiles brightly and says, "See," while he stares at her in shock. He panics, apologizing and claiming he's just overwhelmed with emotion, while she stares in disbelief, wondering if it's really just over some plum trees. Blushing and excited, he asks Kirikawa to let him know her thoughts once she finishes reading Chapter 2 of Love Math. Kirikawa smiles faintly, and the scene shifts to 6 days later, with her mansion standing under the night sky. Kirikawa cheers after collecting enough points, thrilled that she can finally read Chapter 2 of Love Math. Takahashi asks her to share her thoughts after reading, and Kirikawa shyly agrees with a soft, "yeah." Shocked by what she just read in the manga, Kirikawa lets out a loud scream, startling even the household staff. Embarrassed, Kirikawa quickly brushes it off, insisting it was nothing. The butler remarks he heard a scream like a cat in heat, and she panics, claiming she was only sleep-talking. The butler apologizes and leaves, convinced it was just sleep talking. Still shaken, Kirikawa tries to calm herself, but as she looks down at her phone, the reality of what just happened sinks in. Kirikawa hides her flushed face, trembling in panic and anxiety, completely unsure of what to do next. The next day, Takahashi walks down the school hallway, wondering if Kirikawa has already read the second chapter of the manga. Blushing and nervous, Kirikawa reaches out and asks Takahashi if he has a moment to talk. Startled, he agrees. Still shy, Kirikawa asks Takahashi if he really bought all the chapters of Love Math. He quickly confirms, looking excited. Blushing, Kirikawa nervously asks Takahashi if there are any lewd scenes in the manga after Chapter 2. Takahashi wonders if there were really any scenes like that in the manga, and Kirikawa, flustered, blurts out that yes, there were. Kirikawa points to a page on her phone, flustered, showing the scene where the heroine's cleavage is visible, her embarrassment growing even stronger. Kirikawa, blushing and flustered, holds out her phone, insisting the scene is suggestive, while Takahashi just stares in confusion, not grasping why she's so worked up. Takahashi stares closely, his expression tense and surprised, quietly saying Kirikawa's name as if he just realized something important about her. Kirikawa, blushing furiously while clutching her phone, clearly has zero tolerance for even the slightest bit of suggestive content. Flustered and blushing, Kirikawa holds up her phone, pointing at the cleavage in the scene, nervously insisting it's naughty and inappropriate. With a straight face, Takahashi clarifies that Love Math is completely wholesome on every page, with nothing indecent at all. Takahashi is stunned by Kirikawa's intense reaction to even the faintest hint of erotic content, hardly believing how flustered she became. Takahashi resolves that he has to convince Kirikawa the manga isn't erotic, so she won't stop reading it. Flustered and embarrassed, Kirikawa yells at Takahashi, asking what he'd think if she did the same thing. Takahashi envisions Kirikawa in a daring scene, but immediately panics and pushes the thought away, terrified by his own imagination. Kirikawa, flustered, protests that she never expected such a shameless scene. Takahashi watches her in shock, stunned by her reaction. Kirikawa recalls making a weird noise when she first saw the scene, blushing in embarrassment. Takahashi panics, fearing that at this rate, she might stop reading Love Math. Takahashi panics, thinking he needs to change her mind fast, noting that even fashion magazines show some cleavage. Meanwhile, Kirikawa blushes deeply just from holding her phone. Kirikawa nervously argues that since men also read the series, it must have some hidden motive. Takahashi is completely shocked by her reasoning. Kirikawa admits there are fashions that show cleavage, but blurts out she can't look at them because they feel way too indecent for her. Takahashi panics, realizing Kirikawa sees sex as completely off-limits. He wonders if it's truly impossible to persuade her otherwise. He steels himself, refusing to lose confidence. If there's a will, there's a way. He just has to find it. Calling out to Kirikawa, he catches her off guard. Placing a hand on his chest, he nervously but earnestly asks Kirikawa if that makes him naughty too. Sweating nervously, he argues that when he changes clothes, his chest is exposed too, and asks if that makes him naughty as well. Kirikawa blushes and stammers that she doesn't know, clearly flustered, while Takahashi realizes she's wavering and celebrates in his mind. Takahashi seizes the moment, pointing at the manga panel, insisting it's just a normal scene of changing clothes, with nothing naughty about it. Kirikawa counters, insisting Aoi-chan isn't the kind of character who'd show cleavage on purpose. She says thinking like that is what's actually dirty-minded, stressing that manga is about seeing characters' personal lives and watching them grow. With sparkling eyes full of emotion, Kirikawa admits to herself how foolish she had been. Kirikawa, determined, vows to discard her impure thoughts and keep reading Chapter 3. Meanwhile, Takahashi celebrates with excitement, proud of convincing her. But then, the school bell rings, cutting the moment short, and the two hurry back to class together. Suddenly, Kirikawa's phone slips from her hands and flies through the air, startling Takahashi. He wonders if she actually meant to throw it at him, but her only concern is desperately trying to get her phone back. Her phone lands open on a manga page, and Kirikawa stares at it in shock. The teacher picks up the phone, notices the manga page on screen, and sternly asks if it belongs to him. She panics, sweating nervously, and awkwardly blurts out that it was her mistake. The boy cheerfully steps in, claiming the phone as his, while she stands frozen, stunned by the situation. He covers it up by saying Kirikawa just scolded him for walking while looking at his phone, while she stays silent, clearly shaken. The teacher, holding up the phone with the image, warns him not to go showing such naughty stuff to girls, though she adds that she understands, since he's at that age. He stands frozen, still holding the phone, while Kirikawa, embarrassed and shocked, quietly mutters the word naughty. The teacher walks away, but senses something odd. Meanwhile, the two students quietly leave the room together, both trying to hide their awkwardness. Takahashi bows deeply, apologizing and admitting the scene was indeed a bit suggestive. Kirikawa stands quietly, watching him. Collapsed on the floor, Takahashi argues that love mav is appreciated by otakus more for its cuteness than for any erotic appeal. Kirikawa thinks to herself with determination, vowing not to betray Takahashi's expectations. Kirikawa, with a serious look, tells Takahashi she'll expect that from him, as they both kneel on the library floor. Caught off guard and blushing, Takahashi nervously blurts out his agreement with Kirikawa. Kirikawa, still flustered, holds out the phone, while Takahashi panics and quickly apologizes, rushing to take it back. Kirikawa apologizes, blaming herself for the teacher calling Takahashi an airhead. He quickly brushes it off with a smile, assuring her it's no big deal. With a big grin, Takahashi says he doesn't mind being called an airhead if it's for Kirikawa's sake. Meanwhile, she realizes with a soft gaze that she's never had anyone to share her love for love mav with, until now. Flustered, Takahashi runs off blaming himself for messing up, while Kirikawa is left puzzled. Kirikawa recalls Takahashi's words and sits quietly, lost in thought. Kirikawa blushes and smiles softly at her phone, clearly delighted by Takahashi's words. He scanned a club list, unsure where he truly belonged. Takahashi realizes he never planned to join clubs and had forgotten they even existed. Takahashi and Kirikawa spend their time in the resource room, excitedly chatting about love math. It feels more like a casual hangout than any real club activity. Watching Kirikawa, Takahashi wonders if she'll join a club and realizes he'd feel lonely if she did. Takahashi admits to himself that he can be overly dramatic and resolves not to let Kirikawa see this pathetic side of him. Takahashi thinks it was already a miracle that Kirikawa even talked to him after school. So no matter which club she joins, he decides to support her and send her off with a smile. With a shy yet hopeful look, Kirikawa asks Takahashi what he thinks about the manga research club. Takahashi, shocked, reminds Kirikawa that she wanted to keep her love for manga a secret. He wonders if she might have changed her mind. Seeing Kirikawa looking nervous, Takahashi wonders if he just isn't good enough for her. If maybe she simply wants new otaku friends. Even with his doubts and nerves, Takahashi reminds himself that he already decided to support her and happily let her join any club with a smile. With a nervous but determined smile, Takahashi blurts out that the manga research club sounds great. Flustered, Takahashi apologizes, admitting he's just surprised since he never expected Kirikawa to be interested in that club. With a nervous sparkle in his eyes, Takahashi quickly responds that the manga research club sounds great. Awkwardly, Takahashi admits he's surprised, since he never expected Kirikawa to be interested in that club. Kirikawa, slightly confused and unsure how to take it, questions Takahashi's comment. Realizing his words came out wrong, Takahashi laughs nervously and explains he only meant it as something positive, nothing deep. Caught in his own nerves, Takahashi struggles to finish his sentence, while Kirikawa quietly watches him. Kirikawa's silent stare makes Takahashi feel an overwhelming pressure weighing down on him. Cornered by Kirikawa's piercing gaze, Takahashi realizes it's hard to lie and wonders if he really has to fake a positive answer. As he runs alongside her, Takahashi begins to realize what Kirikawa truly wants, making him reflect on her feelings. With a serious expression, Takahashi finally admits to Kirikawa that he doesn't want her to join that club. Takahashi admits that even though it's only been a few days, he's had so much fun with Kirikawa and would be sad if he had less time to talk with her. Takahashi confesses that it might sound selfish and pathetic, but he feels he has to be honest about how he truly feels in front of Kirikawa. Kirikawa reassures him with a smile, saying she's not joining any club, so they'll still have plenty of time to talk. Takahashi feels relieved when Kirikawa says she's not joining any club, though her words sound oddly robotic. When she asks about him, he awkwardly replies that he's in the going home club. Kirikawa suddenly stumbles, startling Takahashi, who quickly asks if she's okay. Embarrassed, Kirikawa admits she was so relieved that she lost her strength and is probably making a weird face right now. Still flustered, Kirikawa decides to head home, relieved to know Takahashi won't be joining any club. Meanwhile, he's left puzzled, stuck on her comment about making a weird face. Takahashi realizes Kirikawa might not have cared about the club itself, but about his opinion, leaving him surprised as he calls out to her. As they part ways, Takahashi tells her he'll see her tomorrow, and Kirikawa cheerfully replies, closing the moment on a simple but warm note. In the hallway, Kirikawa walks past her classmates with a lingering weird expression, catching their attention. Blushing and smiling, Kirikawa shows the happiness she had been hiding, while Takahashi wonders what kind of face she was really making. As class ends, the students stand up, bow, and thank the teacher before leaving. Kirikawa mentions she has a dentist appointment, but secretly thinks about how she needs to share her thoughts with Takahashi on Chapter 3 of Love Math. A classmate approaches Kirikawa, respectfully calling her Kirikawa-sama, and asks for help understanding part of the math lesson. Kirikawa calmly explains the math problem to her classmate, who gratefully calls her a lifesaver. Meanwhile, someone quietly tries to call out to her. Another classmate suddenly approaches with a desperate look, asking Kirikawa for help with English. When Takahashi tries to approach, the classmates around Kirikawa glare at him with hostility, making him feel like a worthless nobody intruding where he doesn't belong. As more classmates ask for help, Kirikawa patiently starts explaining step by step, showing her dedication. Yet behind it all, she wears a thoughtful, distant expression. Her classmates cheerfully thank Kirikawa for her valuable time, praising her respectfully, while she simply gives a reserved reply and walks away quietly. Kirikawa is shocked when she checks her phone, realizing time flew by and it's already nearly 7 p.m. As she hurries along, Kirikawa wonders if Takahashi might still be there waiting for her. Kirikawa rushes into the room, only to find it empty, leaving her with a disappointed sigh. Suddenly, Kirikawa's expression shifts, first flustered, then lighting up with a bright, joyful smile. Takahashi shows up cheerfully, praising Kirikawa for her hard work today, while she, flustered and embarrassed, tries to hide her emotions. Kirikawa rushes to Takahashi, asking where he's been. Embarrassed, he makes up a clumsy excuse, joking that he couldn't just leave his backpack with his wallet behind. Kirikawa, surprised and touched, realizes that Takahashi actually waited for her. Kirikawa seizes the moment to share her thoughts on Love Math with Takahashi, but the school closing announcement cuts her off. He quickly says he has to run to catch the last bus, leaving her speechless. Kirikawa watches Takahashi run off and regrets not being able to talk to him, even though he had waited for her. Later that night, Kirikawa rides through the city, lost in thought, wondering if things couldn't have been handled a bit more smoothly. The driver panics at Kirikawa's reaction, apologizing and wondering if his driving was poor. Startled, she quickly reassures him that it's fine. Sitting in the car, Kirikawa sadly reflects that she messed up today, feeling like she only wasted someone's time for no reason and wondering if there was a better way to handle things. The driver suggests Kirikawa send a message, but she hesitates, recalling how classmates said high schoolers don't really use email anymore. Deep down, she thinks about how much Takahashi has taught her and how close they've grown, not wanting to lose that bond. Kirikawa admits she doesn't want to seem out of touch with reality. The driver suggests Kirikawa use the Talk app on her smartphone to keep in touch. The driver explains that Talk is a popular app among the youth, making it easy to communicate and stay in touch. The next day after school, classmates notice Kirikawa is missing, leaving Takahashi puzzled by her sudden absence. Kirikawa shows up with a serious look, telling Takahashi she's been waiting for him, making him wonder if the old Kirikawa has returned. With a serious gaze, Kirikawa calls out to Takahashi. With a serious expression, Kirikawa asks Takahashi if he knows an app that makes it easy to communicate and stay in touch, catching him off guard. Kirikawa stumbles over her words, flustered, while Takahashi wonders why she suddenly cut herself off so awkwardly. They look it up on the phone and realize that Talk is only available for iPhones, but SMA works on all smartphones. Kirikawa is amazed by how convenient the app is, reacting with wide-eyed surprise. Blushing, Kirikawa asks Takahashi if he already knew about the app. He smiles and admits he didn't know either. Kirikawa beams with relief and joy, happily admitting she didn't know either, sharing the same feeling as Takahashi. Kirikawa cheerfully says goodbye, while Takahashi blushes, excited at the thought that this might let him talk with her even more. After Kirikawa leaves, Takahashi realizes he misunderstood the situation, feeling downhearted. In the car, the driver remarks that it looks like Kirikawa achieved her goal, leaving her surprised and thoughtful about what he meant. Kirikawa freezes in shock, sweat running down her face as the sudden realization hits her. Kirikawa panics when she realizes she forgot to ask Takahashi for his contact. The driver is surprised by her flustered state, and she admits that with him, she can talk without feeling nervous. Kirikawa realizes that in that moment, when she was so happy to feel the same as Takahashi, she completely forgot about her actual goal. The driver reacts in shock, exclaiming loudly in surprise at the situation. The next day, Kirikawa gathers her courage, determined to finally talk to Takahashi, but as she approaches, her nerves get the better of her. Kirikawa spots Takahashi by the lockers. Her eyes widen as she freezes, unsure how to approach him. Kirikawa notices Takahashi keeping his distance whenever they're around classmates, and she wonders if he's doing it on purpose. Kirikawa wonders if Takahashi is avoiding her because he doesn't want her to slip up, especially after she told him she's been holding back and trying her best. While Takahashi is distracted by his phone, Kirikawa watches him nervously, shocked and hesitant, as if she's about to make a move but is held back by fear. Kirikawa tries to speak but feels like her voice can't reach him. Takahashi, worried, asks if she's okay, and she quietly insists she is, even though she clearly isn't. Takahashi praises her for her effort, but he notices Kirikawa looks like she has something important to say. Still, she holds back, her eyes brimming with unspoken emotion. Gathering her courage, Kirikawa nervously asks if Takahashi would use the Talk app with her. Shocked and flustered, Takahashi blurts out in disbelief, asking if Kirikawa really meant him. Embarrassed but certain, she answers yes. Kirikawa shyly admits she couldn't bring herself to approach earlier, but now, blushing, she says she wants to talk more with Takahashi. Caught off guard, he hurriedly reassures her, saying it's no problem and that he's free anyway. Blushing and trembling, Kirikawa grabs Takahashi's arm, nervously asking if he doesn't actually hate the idea of them getting closer. Relieved and overjoyed, Takahashi blurts out that he'd love to. Kirikawa, blushing and shy, offers to send the first message, and the two nervously exchange contacts, both filled with anticipation. Takahashi is stunned when he sees that Kirikawa's first message is ridiculously long, leaving him shocked at how much she wrote. Takahashi keeps reading Kirikawa's huge message, struggling to get through it, showing just how much she wrote in her very first text. Takahashi replies with a big smile, thrilled that Kirikawa noticed the part where Aoi is giving her all in love math. Kirikawa blushes in surprise when she's invited to take a seat, her heart racing from the unexpected attention. Kirikawa beams with joy, relieved and overjoyed that she finally managed to get her feelings across in a message. Excited, Takahashi asks Kirikawa when she thinks she'll get to read the next chapter of Love Math. Takahashi gets Kirikawa's message saying she'll read the next chapter in 4 days. Smiling, he lights up with excitement, assuring himself it's something to look forward to. They share a quiet glance, but then Kirikawa lights up, eyes sparkling as she looks at her phone, unable to hide her excitement. Blushing with excitement, Kirikawa realizes she might be messaging Takahashi all day. Overjoyed, she eagerly starts typing on her phone, her face glowing with happiness. Takahashi stays quiet, his face calm but thoughtful, keeping his emotions hidden beneath a reserved expression. Takahashi notices how much fun Kirikawa is having with their messages. Despite his own uncertainties, he thinks it's fine. Just being able to see her happy is enough for him. After school hours, Kirikawa freaks out when she spots a spider on the chair, panicking dramatically while Takahashi stands there in shock. Kirikawa, still flustered, compares her outburst to a scene from Love Math where a character panics over a spider. Takahashi, overwhelmed yet fascinated, feels like his senses are in pure bliss just watching her. Takahashi, holding back his emotions, realizes that everything Kirikawa says makes him genuinely happy, while she looks at him in quiet surprise. With a warm smile, Kirikawa suggests they should take it easy today since midterm exams are just around the corner. Takahashi freezes in shock, realizing the weight of that exact moment in time. For the first time, Takahashi felt something other than happiness with Kirikawa. Faced with the sudden situation, he realized a new stage was beginning, one filled with uncertainty. Shubi High School stands as one of the top schools in the prefecture, known for its impressive university acceptance rate achieved through dedicated after-school support. Scoring under 80 means mandatory lessons and less time with Takahashi. Still, she vows to try her best. Takahashi confesses he got into school by luck and lacks confidence in himself. Takahashi asks to focus on studying during exams, but admits he still wants to keep talking with Kirikawa. She happily agrees. Takahashi vows to score over 80 on the exams, making Kirikawa excited and reassured by his determination. Kirikawa cheers for him with excitement, but Takahashi quickly feels the pressure of aiming for 80 points, looking uneasy. At home, Takahashi collapses over his desk, drowning in study but filled with doubt, convinced he can't reach the 80-point goal. Exhausted at his desk, Takahashi recalls Kirikawa's encouragement, while she, at home, clutches her phone and wonders if he's already read the latest chapter of Love Math. Worn out, Takahashi tells himself that scoring 80 shouldn't be too hard, assuming Kirikawa probably gets high grades with ease. After studying until 5 in the morning, Takahashi realizes none of it stuck. Exhausted, he notices his heavy-eyed bags and feels embarrassed as he heads to school. Takahashi drags himself into class, exhausted. He thinks everyone around him is more capable and that no one else shows up with dark circles on the first day. Kirikawa looks serious, admitting she also struggles with the exam period, surprising Takahashi as he realizes she feels the same pressure he does. Takahashi realizes Kirikawa, sitting next to him, also looks exhausted, hinting that she too spent the whole night studying like him. Kirikawa asks Takahashi to spend some time with her after school, and he, flustered and shocked, agrees right away. Kirikawa thanks Takahashi for his time and asks if there's anything she can do to help. He realizes no one would dare turn her down. Kirikawa hands Takahashi her notebook filled with neatly organized notes, telling him to use it if he wants. He's shocked and speechless. She explains that she created summaries for each subject, inspired by a Love Math scene where Aoi made study notes as well. She proudly shows her notes and cheerfully suggests that they both do their best on the exams. Flustered, she insists she wasn't copying Aoi, claiming it was just a coincidence. He realizes she stayed up after the midnight chapter update, making all those notes right after reading. He's shocked to learn she barely slept, while she cheerfully admits it with enthusiasm. She smiles, claiming she's fine after just 30 minutes of sleep, while he panics, saying that doesn't even count as rest. Takahashi grabs Kirikawa by the shoulders, worried, asking what she'd do if she suddenly collapsed. Takahashi, still worried, says he's happy but begs Kirikawa to get proper rest so she doesn't harm herself. Kirikawa, blushing and flustered, agrees to his request and promises to rest, leaving Takahashi shocked and shaken by the intensity of the moment. Kirikawa shyly admits she isn't used to others worrying about her when she studies, showing how much his concern caught her off guard. Takahashi insists he'd obviously worry if she pushed herself too hard, while Kirikawa realizes that for her, overstudying has simply become normal. Takahashi recalls her saying that 30 minutes of sleep is enough and realizes that someone who scores high effortlessly wouldn't say that, making him question Kirikawa's struggles. Takahashi vows to work hard on his test prep, while Kirikawa, overjoyed by the moment, lets her true feelings slip and skips happily all the way home. Takahashi studies using Kirikawa's notebook, amazed at how she managed to condense entire pages in a simple, easy-to-understand lines, all done in just one night. Takahashi realizes that Kirikawa pushed herself so hard not just for exams, but because she truly cared about their after-school time together. At home, their mother tells Mao not to disturb her older brother while he studies, but she replies casually, showing little concern. Takahashi slumps over his desk, groaning in exhaustion as he pushes his body to keep going. Takahashi's sister shouts that he's making weird noises, while he panics and loudly denies it. Encouraged by Kirikawa's notes, Takahashi vows not to waste even a second of his break time and dedicate himself fully to studying. As Kirikawa is called over and over by her classmates, Takahashi silently watches, pausing his studies as all the attention shifts toward her. As classmates talk about Kirikawa's popularity, Takahashi assumes she doesn't need him, yet deep down she recalls her loneliness, knowing that isn't true at all. As Kirikawa receives admiration from classmates, Takahashi reflects that she doesn't seem to have any issues, deepening the sense of distance he feels from her. A classmate asks Kirikawa if she reads manga and requests recommendations, showing interest in her personal tastes. Takahashi grows nervous, eager to hear Kirikawa's reply about manga, while she acts confused, pretending not to know what they're talking about. Kirikawa's classmates scold Takahashi, insisting she would never be into something vulgar like manga, claiming she must only enjoy pure literature, leaving him embarrassed. Kirikawa quietly gives a reserved answer, leaving Takahashi puzzled by how odd the conversation has turned. Meanwhile, her classmates praise her as if her response was something admirable. Kirikawa reflects on the pressure she feels. Both classmates and even her parents expect her to have refined hobbies, making her realize the weight of never being able to show her real interests. While Kirikawa faces the expectations of those around her, Takahashi realizes that even if people don't mean any harm, it must be exhausting for her. Determined not to overthink, he pushes himself to focus solely on studying harder. Strengthening his resolve, Takahashi vows that for both Kirikawa's sake and his own, he must score over 80 points on the exams, committing himself to study with everything he has. On the day of the test, the teacher hands out the exam papers as everyone gets ready to begin. The teacher signals to turn over the papers and begin. Nervous, Takahashi flips his test and freezes when he sees the tough questions. Takahashi is shocked to see the test covers exactly what he studied on his own. Excited, he realizes he actually knows the answers. With the exams over, Kirikawa smiles in relief, while classmates remark that the midterms have finally ended. After the exams, Takahashi gets an unexpected message from Kirikawa, asking how his test went. Takahashi replies excitedly that he managed to score 80 points, but Kirikawa, surprised, points out that it's still too early to say. When the tests are handed back, Kirikawa's hunch proves correct. Takahashi actually scored 72 points. Takahashi is stunned by his actual score, while Kirikawa quietly watches the situation unfold. Kirikawa, exhausted, admits she only slept 30 minutes but still smiles and pushes herself. Moved by her effort, Takahashi vows to work hard too, so they can both do well on the exams and keep spending time together. In a moment of panic and comedic exaggeration, Takahashi freaks out over his mistake and dramatically declares that his death will be the price for his foolishness, leaving Kirikawa baffled by his over-the-top reaction. The teacher pauses the review to explain that the last test question was a mistake since it included material that hadn't been covered yet, leaving the student surprised. The teacher declares she'll make an exception. The student who missed the last question and scored 77 points will still pass, leaving Takahashi relieved. Takahashi holds up his test in panic, shouting that he got the last question wrong, overwhelmed in front of the whole class. Kirikawa, embarrassed, confesses she barely avoided remedial classes, while being scolded not to be proud of mistakes, but to review more. Beaming, Takahashi proudly shows his passing test scores and thanks Kirikawa, crediting her notes for helping him stay above the safe line in every subject. Kirikawa realizes Takahashi barely scored over 80 in every subject. With determination, she vows to make even better notes next time to help him score higher. Takahashi excitedly asks if Kirikawa has read Chapter 5 of Love Math. But when he looks at her, he's puzzled by how overly serious and intense she suddenly looks. Blushing and slightly flustered, Kirikawa eagerly replies that yes, she has already read the chapter. As Kirikawa speaks with sparkling eyes and animated gestures, Takahashi watches her, thinking about how incredibly expressive she is. Kirikawa sits in her room, hugging her knees and trying to restrain herself. She thinks about how she has to hold back from sending messages during the exam period, even though she's eager to talk. Kirikawa shyly covers her face with a laugh, while Takahashi, cheerful and relaxed, makes a playful gesture with his hands, creating a light-hearted moment between them in the school hallway. Kirikawa chats enthusiastically with Takahashi as he listens attentively, a notebook resting on his lap. Time slips by quickly, and the clock shows it's already close to 6 o'clock. Before continuing, Kirikawa shyly asks to use the restroom. Takahashi, a bit startled, quickly agrees, realizing that nature's calling. As Kirikawa walks alone down the hallway toward the restroom, she suddenly hears someone calling her name, making her stop in surprise. A blonde girl politely approaches Kirikawa, asking for a moment of her time. Kirikawa, caught off guard, agrees, and the girl requests that she come down to talk. The blonde girl, flustered, quickly says it's nothing important and apologizes before rushing away. Kirikawa remains still, watching the scene with confusion. Kirikawa opens the door and, startled, stares at something unexpected inside the room. Kirikawa finds Takahashi asleep in his chair, his notebook slipping from his hands, clearly worn out from studying. Kirikawa finds Takahashi surrounded by fallen notes and realizes he has been using the one she made. His hands sweat wrinkled the pages, and some of the writing has even faded, showing just how hard he worked. Kirikawa beams with joy, touched by how much Takahashi relied on her notes, using them so much they've worn down. Kirikawa warmly thanks Takahashi for all his hard work studying, while he sits exhausted, resting with her notes on his lap. Takahashi beams with gratitude for the notes, but Kirikawa, moved, confesses that for the first time in her life, she's actually looked forward to after school. Exhausted, Takahashi sincerely thanks Kirikawa for all the effort she put in for him, leaving her speechless at his heartfelt gratitude. Kirikawa, flustered and on the verge of tears, tries to hide her true feelings by muttering that she was just kidding. Kirikawa hesitates, starting to confess something important to Takahashi, but her words come out fragmented, showing how hard it is for her to open up. Takahashi wakes up startled, wondering if he was dreaming and nervously asking if he said anything weird in his sleep, while Kirikawa looks shocked and flustered. Kirikawa, blushing and trembling, stares wide-eyed at Takahashi and shakily tells him that he didn't say anything at all while he was asleep. Flustered and blushing, Kirikawa hurriedly insists that Takahashi didn't say anything in his sleep, desperately trying to cover up her own embarrassment. Blushing furiously and eager to shift the focus, Kirikawa urges Takahashi to continue what he was saying before she left for the restroom. Kirikawa excitedly announces that a special Love Mav 10th Anniversary Festival will be held at an anime shop. Takahashi realizes that each item bought at the event comes with a collectible sticker, with 4 types in total. He offers to get one for Kirikawa too, while she shyly admits she was planning to go on the very first day. Blushing and nervous, Kirikawa asks if it would be okay for her to join Takahashi at the fair, clearly showing her desire to share that moment with him. Takahashi is stunned by Kirikawa's sudden question, caught off guard by her unexpected request to join him at the fair. Takahashi agrees to her request without hesitation, deciding to meet Kirikawa at the Machi tree, seeing no reason to turn her down. Takahashi waits nervously at the meeting spot, the Machi tree, as he looks forward to seeing Kirikawa. As he waits, Takahashi grows anxious about his appearance, self-conscious for not caring about fashion and just wearing whatever he had. Blushing, Takahashi wonders what kind of outfit Kirikawa will wear for their outing, picturing her in various styles and growing even more flustered. Takahashi recalls how in Love Mav, Aoi Tan went on her first date dressed entirely in black, but he doubts Kirikawa would ever wear something like that. Takahashi looks online for what kind of clothes girls wear on their days off, but he's shocked to find an article saying that the no-pants style is trending among overseas celebrities. Takahashi freaks out when he realizes on his phone that the no-pants style basically looks like someone walking around in just their underwear, leaving him embarrassed and panicked at the thought. The boy panics when he sees the exhibit revealing something intimate, leaving everyone around stunned. Takahashi is caught off guard by the thought of Kirikawa showing up in a daring outfit, a possibility that leaves him flustered. Kirikawa shows up early, blushing as she shyly points out that there's still time before their meeting. Takahashi, blushing with relief, admits he's glad Kirikawa is wearing pants, leaving her quietly taken aback. Takahashi notices that Kirikawa, unintentionally, is wearing the exact same hat as someone else he knows. Flustered, he quickly covers it up by pretending he just read something weird. Takahashi can't help but think Kirikawa looks cute in that outfit. Embarrassed for staring, he apologizes and she shyly brushes it off. Blushing deeply, Kirikawa shyly asks Takahashi to say her name as much as he can today, quietly showing her longing for his attention. Kirikawa confesses she doesn't want others to notice her, worried it'd cause trouble if people knew they were together. Flustered, Takahashi quickly agrees. Flustered and blushing, Kirikawa quickly denies his assumption, while Takahashi, startled and confused, reacts in shock. Flustered, Kirikawa insists she doesn't want anyone to know she's there, while Takahashi is stunned to realize she's actually fine being with him. Kirikawa recalls sneaking out once to buy a manga, only for her father to find out right away and throw it away as soon as she got home. She explains that the bookstore owner recognized her from a photo and called to thank her dad's company. Even now, she admits she can't fully understand her family's deep social connections. Kirikawa confesses she couldn't handle it if the things she bought today were thrown away. Takahashi reassures her with determination, telling her she can count on him. Takahashi assures her he'll be careful so her father or anyone else won't find out. Embarrassed, Kirikawa apologizes for putting him through all this trouble. Takahashi cheerfully says it feels like a secret date, like celebrities hiding away, exciting and fun. Kirikawa is stunned, her heart racing as she wonders if this really means it's a date. Flustered and panicking, Takahashi backtracks, insisting it's not a date and blurting out that his tongue just slipped. In a panic, Takahashi insists it's not a date and nervously blurts out that his tongue just slipped. Takahashi awkwardly insists it's definitely not a date, while Kirikawa stares at him in quiet surprise, her feelings clearly stirred. Flustered, Takahashi blurts out that if he ever wanted to ask her on a real date, he'd do it properly, straightforward and clear, not with vague slips like this. Kirikawa, her eyes glistening and cheeks flushed, softly responds to Takahashi's words with a quiet, trembling, "I see." Takahashi laughs awkwardly, scratching his head, and says he's glad she understands, though he's clearly still uneasy inside. Takahashi suddenly realizes, horrified, that what he said sounded like asking Kirikawa out on a date. Flustered, he scrambles to backtrack, begging her not to take it the wrong way. Blushing and smiling softly, Kirikawa gazes at Takahashi with a curious look, while he stares back, tense and unsure of how to handle her reaction. Relieved that she didn't notice his slip-up, Takahashi lets out a quiet sigh, while Kirikawa looks at him curiously, asking if something's wrong. They agree to head out, starting their day together on that Sunday morning. Takahashi and Kirikawa walk side by side through the station, setting off together on their trip to the anime shop. Takahashi keeps telling himself this isn't a date, yet deep down, it feels exactly like one. Walking beside her, Takahashi grows so flustered he can't even look Kirikawa in the eye, realizing just how much the moment is getting to him. As they reach the stairs, Takahashi points ahead, explaining that the anime shop is just around the corner. Blushing hard, Kirikawa once again shyly asks Takahashi to say her name as much as possible, catching him off guard. Takahashi freezes up, stammering nervously, unable to figure out how to respond to her request. Kirikawa rushes back to Takahashi, apologizing for getting separated in the crowd. Embarrassed, he insists it was his fault for walking too fast. Kirikawa explains she just got swept away by the crowd, leaving Takahashi looking at her in puzzled disbelief. Caught in the crowd, Takahashi suggests heading down the stairs, but they quickly get separated again as Kirikawa struggles through, calling out for space. The crowd grows more chaotic, and Takahashi loses sight of Kirikawa, desperately calling out for her as voices and noise overwhelm him. Kirikawa apologizes, admitting she's never had to push through a crowd before. Takahashi realizes that people are usually the ones stepping aside for her, which explains her struggle in this situation. Takahashi is shocked to learn that Kirikawa woke up at 5 a.m. just to get ready, showing how much effort she put into meeting him. Excited by his brilliant idea, Takahashi suggests they stick as close together as possible to avoid getting separated. Kirikawa blushes, startled by the thought. Takahashi offers her the strap of his backpack, asking Kirikawa to hold on so they won't get separated in the crowd. Kirikawa shyly grips Takahashi's backpack strap as they start walking together. Both flustered, they move forward, somehow managing to stay connected through that small but meaningful gesture. As she holds onto his strap, Takahashi can't help but think it feels like walking a dog. When he blurts it out, Kirikawa blushes and shyly agrees, embarrassed by the comparison. Realizing how awkward the strap idea was, Takahashi scraps it and tells her to just grab onto his clothes if anything happens. Kirikawa quickly agrees with a nod. Unsure how to address her in public, Takahashi hesitantly asks what he should call her. Blushing, Kirikawa tells him he can just call her Yayoi, since it's not a name people would easily recognize. Blushing, Takahashi finally calls her Yayoi-san, turning the moment into something shy yet meaningful between them. Kirikawa, flustered, admits that back in school people used to call her Iwa-san, and he can use that too. Takahashi eagerly agrees and calls her by the nickname, making her blush even harder. Blushing and flustered after hearing the nickname, Kirikawa clutches her chest as her heart races, just as they arrive at the anime shop. Kirikawa walks into the shop, amazed by all the manga-related items, while Takahashi excitedly confirms that everything there is connected to manga. Kirikawa wanders through the shop wide-eyed, completely dazzled by the shelves of manga and merchandise around her, her excitement leaving her speechless. Kirikawa is left speechless, her eyes sparkling, while Takahashi smiles and says he completely understands the thrill of discovering so many amazing things at once. Excited, Takahashi calls out, "Iwa-san," and points at something in the shop, startling Kirikawa with how naturally he used her nickname. They stumble upon a special corner of the shop dedicated to Love Mav, filled with posters and exclusive merch, making the moment even more thrilling for Kirikawa. Takahashi gets fired up at the Love Mav fair, amazed to see every single volume lined up on display. Kirikawa beams with excitement, sharing in his joy. They talk about how manga is usually displayed, either on shelves or laid out flat. Takahashi points out that seeing a completed series showcased like this is practically a miracle. Overwhelmed with excitement, Kirikawa praises the Love Mav collection, her eyes lighting up as she spots the alternate cover editions. Takahashi excitedly points out that they even have the rare alternate cover editions. Kirikawa falls silent, awestruck by the discovery. Standing before the Love Mav display, Takahashi calls out to her as Yuwa-san while she stays quiet, overwhelmed by the moment. Flustered, Takahashi clasps his hands together and begs for a girl's opinion, desperately pleading for help with his decision. A girl lounges in her room, manga in hand and a plush pillow beside her, lost in her own thoughts. Takahashi proudly holds up a flashy Final Death shirt, asking how it looks from a girl's perspective. The immediate reaction is disgust, calling it gross and ridiculous. At school, a girl vents to her friends about being forced to help her brother pick out clothes for Sunday, mocking how weird and awful all his choices were. Her friends are impressed that her brother goes to a prestigious high school, but she snaps back, calling him a gross otaku who does nothing but study. When classmates start mocking Takahashi for being too focused on studying, his sister snaps back, glaring at them and demanding to know who they think they are to talk about him like that. One of the girls teases that Takahashi's sister is secretly a brocon, obsessed with her brother. Flustered and angry, she snaps back in denial while her friends hold her back playfully. Switching the topic, Takahashi's sister suddenly declares that everyone has to meet at the station on Sunday at 8:30 a.m., leaving the group puzzled by her sudden burst of authority. On Sunday, as Takahashi gets ready, his sister shows up with friends to secretly spy on him. They tease that it looks like a date, but she flusters and yells that it's not. Takahashi's sister declares she'll crush any girl trying to trick her brother, revealing her lack of trust. Her friends note how little faith she has in him, while other girls nearby mock him with disgust. Takahashi's sister tells her friends to keep an eye on her brother while she heads to the restroom. Annoyed but relieved, she mutters to herself as she finally gets there. In the restroom area, Takahashi's sister is suddenly confronted by a pushy man who accuses her of breaking something in his bag and demands she take responsibility. Shocked and wary, she realizes the situation might be serious. Kirikawa steps in confidently, pulling out her phone and suggesting they call the police to verify if Takahashi's sister actually broke anything. The moment security cameras and police are mentioned, the man immediately backs down, insisting it's unnecessary and walking away, his scam exposed. Kirikawa calmly explains she'd been watching the guy since he'd been lurking around the restroom. Takahashi's sister, still shaken and outraged, is surprised that Kirikawa had picked up on it. Takahashi's sister, blushing, thanks Kirikawa for helping her out, confessing that if she'd been alone, she probably would have just cried and frozen. Kirikawa smiles warmly, saying waking up at 5 a.m. for this meetup was totally worth it. Takahashi is shocked to hear Kirikawa got up at 5 a.m., so he asks what time their meetup was. With sparkling eyes, she cheerfully replies that it was at 9:30 a.m., showing just how excited she was. While a group talks about Kirikawa, saying she's a bit odd, but definitely a good person, someone assumes her meetup must be a date. Hearing that, Kirikawa pauses, looking unsure, quietly wondering to herself if it really counts as a date. Blushing and slightly nervous, Kirikawa admits it's her first time going to a place like this. She says she doesn't want to be late or waste anyone's time, revealing her worry about being considerate and not becoming a burden. Takahashi's sister watches with a sly smile, remarking that Kirikawa still seems to be in the not-quite-dating stage, that blurry line where it's not official, but the romantic tension is definitely there. Takahashi's sister cheers Kirikawa on, calling her big sis with excitement. Kirikawa, caught off guard but clearly delighted, smiles brightly, and thanks her. Takahashi's sister rushes back, demanding to know if her brother's date has arrived yet. The group tells her not yet, and she scans the area with growing impatience. Takahashi's sister suddenly freezes, her eyes widening in shock as she spots something completely unexpected.